Recording is on.
We could do it in parts, I guess.
Yep. You start, and I'll chip in.
Yeah. All right. We're going to frame the session, and we invite and honor the Godhead, the men in white linen, associated to one united body, associated to this bench, to this group. We invite and honor the seven spirits of God and the seven handmaidens. We see ourselves entangling with the seven spirits of God and the seven handmaidens, with the DNA of the Godhead. With the men in white linen, operating from the bench of one in heart, one in mind, one in spirit. We see ourselves opening up all of our gates, our spirit gates, our soul gates, our body gates, and that river of life flowing through all of our gates. The seven spirits of God moving through all of our gates. And we frame that we will hit the perfect bullseye for this session. That there will be a flow. And we trade all the knowledge that we currently have, all our preconceived notions, everything. And we trade it at the sea of glass for new revelation and deeper revelation, things that were unheard of, that we will start discovering them and stepping into them. Like the 24 elders, see yourselves laying down everything on that sea of glass so that it can propel us further. The topic for today is Metatron's cube, and also dialoguing around how to operate out of time. You want to begin, Jen?
No, I think it's for you, really.
Okay. So do we want to dialogue around Metatron's cube, share all our understanding and our views of what we see as Metatron's cube, as this is a big picture.
Yeah.
I think all of us have encountered Metatron's cube by now.
It would be good to hear a number of people say what it means to them and why we need to go there compared to other places.
Yeah.
Anybody want to start?
You can share your encounters or your testimonies. It may not have to be a complete understanding. It could just be a testimony or something you experienced when you were in Metatron's cube.
Mm. Well, I'll go first then. I kind of see it as necessary because it's a way of accessing a lot of dimensions together, and it seems to be an accelerated form of operating. I found it quite difficult originally to get in and understand it, and I was sort of visualizing these 13 circles connected. It didn't really do it for me, the 13 circles, and then seeing all these other shapes, and I wasn't a gateway for me to go in. The biggest gateway was sitting on all the cities and seeing all the cities together, and I suddenly saw myself as a light rod, and I knew I was engaged in all the 13 cities actually, being this light rod in Metatron's cube. And it was very meaningful for me, that, and I sort of just spun and entangled this light rod, and it was as if I was doing stuff in Metatron's cube across all the 13 cities. And then I began to see them a little bit more like different planes of a diamond inside a diamond, and the facets, and I used to see like multicolored strands of like crisscrossing. So I saw a lot of that. And then I almost felt like I could ping these chords and they would make a frequency. And then I felt I could dance on these planes. And by dancing on them, I was almost colouring in what they meant and the details to allow people to access them. So that's some of my more recent encounters there. I mean, people say it's the circles of 13 tribes, and linking them together is the reason for Metatron's cube. I don't actually have testimony on that, but I do have testimony that it seems to be a way of accessing a lot of dimensions together, and also purging into new dimensions there, and opening them up. I find it quite a glorious place of light and beauty, and I'm quite drawn there, and quite drawn to the acceleration that it offers. Oh yeah, I did have a big encounter with the angel Metatron in the early days, and I saw him like totally encompassing the cube. Well, it's not a cube, whatever the shape is. And then I was arcing with him, and then I became as big as he was, and then I could see my almost like hands and legs stretching the breadth of Metatron's cube, and then it was as if I could shoot out like strings or something from me, and I could go deeper into the dimensions. So I just sort of stretched out and became bigger, and then accessed some of these dimensions. That was quite amazing, that. Because then I got a real sense of the bigness of my spirit man. It's very lovely. I love that. Yeah, anyone else?
I've just seen it as a means of travel. Like, the words that kept coming to me were to go where no man has gone before. It opens up new dimensions to us that we have, God gives us access to, but people don't know it until they engage it.
Yeah. Anyone else? Give it a go.
I saw Metatron's cube a lot at the beginning, and it's interesting. I haven't engaged with it for ages, but when I first joined the Ecclesia, it was very much part of my encounter. I remember drawing this picture. I found how to draw Metatron's cube, and it was circles and circles and circles, and it's really complicated to draw. And I was really very proud of myself. But I'll just share the drawing, because it's because what happens when you create this drawing of circles is that you get a myriad of geometric shapes in it. So it's almost like all the geometric shapes in the universe are in this this drawing. So it's the basic geometry of the universe in some way. So that was quite interesting. But then I saw it. See, it's a while, so that's why I didn't share early, because I was trying to go back into my memory. But then the explosion. I mean, I experienced an explosion with Metatron's cube, and I also experienced the light rod. So it was like a power base. And then I think, didn't we in one encounter? Didn't we? Wasn't it like we were in the pods and it was like a power source, and we plug in and go there for
Yeah.
refreshment, and so I remember that. And I also, Jane, remember a couple of times when I went to the scroll room, I was shot up into Metatron's cube, so I couldn't stay in the scroll room. Every time I went in there, I was just shot out into this big space. And the first time it scared me, so I didn't carry on. But then Bill said to me, "No, you must carry on." So there's been a few encounters around it, and they may come back in from the depths of my memory as we go on.
Yeah. Thank you. Do you want to share the diagram that you drew?
I'll see if I can find it, but I'm not sure how to share it. Being I'm not super with Zoom, but let me not waste time. I'll see if I can find it, and then I can do it.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Your encounter or experience in Metatron's cube?
I've had one major encounter, which was very exciting, but I saw it. In fact, I didn't know it was Metatron's cube at the time. Simone was with me when it all happened, and I saw it as a huge, massive diamond, absolutely massive. And I jumped into it, and I see it as many facets. I didn't actually see it as circles at all. And I was catapulted into another realm altogether. And it has facilitated me going back to that place without jumping into it again. But I've actually seen it very often, but not actually engaged.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any other encounter? There's no right and wrong here. These are just encounters that you had. So have that confidence to be able to share it. Because I think all of us at a big picture level are probably fathering people. So I feel that we should probably have that ability to be able to share something that we've had or that we've seen. Because as we let it flow, we are edifying and building others. So go ahead, give it a shot.
Can I just say one more thing? I only ever see it as a diamond, or as a not necessarily in the diamond shape, but in, I can't explain this, but in I don't know how to put it, but it's kind of flat, or maybe I'm only seeing one part of the diamond. I'm not quite sure, but it's always got facets.
I haven't encountered Metatron's cube, but just to look at it now, I see it. It's made out of beams of light, beams of white light, and it has a blue glow around it. It's up in the heavenlies, but there's no stars, so it's just a cube against the black background, and it has a beam of light coming down and hitting one portion of it. That's how I see it. A ray of light is hitting one portion of it, and the rest of it is formed out of, in a cube, out of rays of light.
Thank you. Who's next? Anyone else have an understanding of how Metatron's cube works, or what Metatron's cube is about? Well, the way I see it is that so you have all these dimensions that to me look like facets, like diamonds, but it's like but you can see within that also. I guess Jane described it as a facet within a facet. It's these multiple dimensions, and as a spirit being on our journey, we grow. I see Metatron's cube as so huge with this vibration, and sometimes I've seen myself floating up in the early days, and then after that I seen where I had this encounter, and I used to always step into Metatron's cube, and then there was this encounter where I seen Metatron's cube, and I had this conversation with Father. Father was there at that time, and I seen Metatron's cube before me, and he was talking to me about it, and all of a sudden, as he was talking to me, I had that revelation that I am so much bigger than what I thought was so huge. And then what I did was I took Metatron's cube and I put it on the inside of me because I had become that big. And after that, I seen myself when I consciously stepped in, I seen myself like this hall of mirrors thing, Like you step in and you can see yourself in the dimensions over there. It was so strange. It was like I was here, Anna was there, and I could see myself there in those dimensions. And so then I think as a result of doing that, I ended up being in all the dimensions. And yes, and also sitting in the middle of Metatron's cube and being able to govern over a number of cities all at once. And I did see the circles as well. And after discussion with Metatron, the angel, and he's supposed to be the keykeeper of time, the chief angel of time. And after having a conversation with him, he did reveal to me of the things with concerns the 13 tribes, also had to do with connected to the 12 or the 13 tribes. I don't know if it was 13, but they look like these concentric circles, one circle after another circle after another circle, and just and if you step if you step on a circle, you get this frequency that it releases, and then you step on another. It's like you can actually play play a song over there, because it's so loud, and it's like so the frequencies are so different from one another. As you keep stepping on them, you get this music that you get. So, and what else? Yeah, so I think that so there are dimensions that operate in time, but they're also they could also be other cities and other places that are in infinity that are possibly here as well in Metatron's cube. And of course we do sit here and we can't govern all the cities. So we have science has found out when I was watching this video, and science has found out that the perfect geometric shape. I watched the whole episode, and at the end, I think it was TED Talks, and at the end, I see the scientist putting on Metatron's cube, and he began to explain why, and I found it fascinating. And he said there are about 241 dimensions within this construct, and it was amazing how he came to that because of the electrons and the neutrons and the atoms. And if there is perfect stability, he said, then the shape would look like this in the universe and with everything. And so that was amazing. Yeah, I'll give others a chance to say something.
Well, I'm very encouraged that the scientists recognise it as well, and that gives me great assurance. I think I had a bit of a revelation today, and I just got further on it about identity. And I was asking about how do we rule over our fullest identity, and then I was shown that we were to sit on all 12 or 13 really thrones of the cities, and then put the Dominion one on the top. And then it's just come to me now that that's sort of really what we're doing in Metatron's cube. And I just heard it's in Metatron's cube we see our fullest identity. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, I think that's why the purpose, that we can see how the Godhead can be over and omnipresent over everything, and that's how we can be omnipresent and cope with all the agendas that are going on in the universe in an accelerated way. I mean, how can Father cope with all the agendas? It has to be some sort of method like this that allows his spirit to be everywhere.
Can I just add, if there was one other thing, just to throw it in. It also seemed to be this is correct, and this was again something a while ago. I had this encounter, and this was me. I mean, this was a personal thing, and I saw I saw I saw this huge, like a some sort of machine, but it had lots of entry points, and then people were taken, shot up in these tubes into almost a place of safety. But I'm not sure I was seeing clearly at that point. But there was something about this being a central place. Yeah. Anyway, I just share that.
Yeah. And I see in your diagram, because even the occult believe in Metatron's cube. The New Agers believe in Metatron's cube. They have tattoos of Metatron's cube,
Really?
which they call the flower of life. And they call it different things, but when you look at the diagram, it's the same. And I think Andrea is with family, but she's put on her experience here. So I'll just read that out. She said, I have engaged Metatron when working in the timeline. What I saw was he opened an old map across the table, and it had a depth to it. As Olga said, I saw white light strands and blue glows in places. He would touch areas for me to go or to be aware of. I would just be where he would touch. I would come back to this table in a strategy room to meet with him. This is my only experience I'm aware of Metatron. I see to meet with him to work over time and not just in time. Yes, which is something that we wanna do as well, as a group, and being able to see that we start understanding, because the more we understand about Metatron and the more we understand that we are not bound by time, and then when we put Metatron's cube inside of us, that we can contain time, expand it, change it, we're able to use it, and then start discussing on how we start operating out of time, dialoguing, and even probably going into encounter.
So where is it? Is it in eternity? Is it?
It could be between eternity and infinity. Probably in the infinity symbol, when you sit in the middle over there of the 8, but right there in the middle where they connect each other, that could also be a place where Metatron's cube could be at.
But it definitely includes dimensions on New Earth.
Yeah. The ones
So
which
I'd
are out of
say,
time.
yeah, like the intersection of, well, not the intersection, the encompassing all.
Yeah.
But it's got to be, and not just in eternity, it's got to have an element of New Earth to it. I mean, it's everything, isn't it, really?
And I think someone said, because I haven't seen it, but someone said that, or maybe because I didn't engage it, on one of the encounters, I heard someone saying that in the center of the infinity symbol, you have these double doors. And I wasn't with you guys when y'all were working through stuff and doing the plumbing, so to speak. I wasn't with you guys at that time. And I've heard people talk of the double doors that were there. And so I feel that there's a possibility that when we sit on that throne, when we are governing over all the cities, and we have infinity on one side and eternity, and we have all these places, that Metatron's cube is somewhere there in the middle when we sit there. So that's a possibility.
Yeah, I was sort of thinking when you first said that probably equipping you, like sort of to represent the heart.
Oh, I can't hear you. So sorry.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, there's a disturbance.
Oh, um, let me see. Is it any different?
No.
Okay, I'll check something.
Okay.
Try a bit later on, it might have gone. So I've got a question. If there is the 13 tribes, but then there was also the 70 tribes, and there was sort of two lines, and we were more in the 70 tribes thing, how does that tie in with Metatron's cube? If we're just talking about 13 tribes. Phil's done a page on how we're sort of the 70 tribes fit in and 70 nations. And if you're not aware of that, I'd read that one. I think the Gentiles were more from the 70 nations than the 13 tribes.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder if it was just man only really could identify these 13 tribes initially, and the 70 were sort of hidden in the mixture. And that's why we don't tend to talk about it in terms of 70 circles.
That's possible.
But I think we should keep challenging it, because what others have seen may not be the fullest picture. And so we don't want to be limited just by what others have seen or history assesses it as. Let's push in, and we may see 70 circles. You know, we may get a sense of this heritage of the 70 nations, which could be a very important opening, maybe even to the Council of 70. That's probably a bit of a deep question, that one.
Yeah, but I think that if you look at Jane's diagram, and even the diagrams which are on Google image, the circles, that's how Metatron's cube is drawn. When you look at it and you have these concentric circles, so they well could be. Maybe we are only experiencing the circles on the outskirts, but not within the dimensions, and it's so complex, really, what we're actually looking at.
That's what's coming to me, that there's more in the inner bit that none of us have pioneered into. Yeah. And it's interesting, when I'm in New Earth, I see more of like the flower of life type shape. And I am this flower of life, and I'm like pulsating as a flower and calling people into that center of the flower. But in Metatron's cube, I'm not like a flower. So it's interesting that some of the New Agers see it as a flew-up flower. I just don't see it as a flower. And I see it as more complex than a flower, and more multidimensional, and more as crisscrossing lines, lots of crisscrossing lines. But I don't know if any of you have ever seen the film Interstellar. If you haven't, it's worth a watch. He goes into space, and then he ends up in this complex structure, and it's like a lot of crisscross lines, and it's where he can go up and down the timeline and access all these dimensions on different time. And then he goes, and then it becomes a bit like a bookshelf, and he's trying to get in one. He decides he wants to go into one dimension where his daughter was, and so he's like pushing his hand through these lines, this grid, and then eventually he manages to push this book off and get his daughter's attention in that particular time frame. And I find that very helpful, that's how I see a lot of it. It's a way of going up and down all the dimensions in time, all the and sort of accessing. And that's why I kind of see these strings. And it's interesting. There's a big theory called string theory. And I still can't fully understand it when I try and Google it. But I see myself as strings, like loads of strings. And it's as if I morph into strings going into all these dimensions. And I've often wondered if I'm seeing an element of string theory. I mean, that's pretty amazing, but I think it's the place for doing quantum physics, really.
I think the
Oh,
zoom.
yeah.
I'm sorry. I think the string theory is about it's about these multiverses rather, and the possibility of multiverses. If I remember string theory correctly, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, with the existence of all these multiverses and the possibility of having parallel and alternate realities and universes.
Ah.
And I shared on the chat uh, Jane Kastner's diagram that she had put on the big picture that she drew.
Isn't it interesting, Jane? Your diagram actually looks like it could be like 70 circles overlapping. Yeah.
Do you know, I didn't count them.
Because when you're inside, yeah, because when we're inside, you can't make up because it's like dimension within dimension. You can see those small things like a flower, and you see these several dimensions. It's like, I don't know, you can't even count it. It's like so vast.
And that your diagram looks a lot like flowers as well.
And the occult got this as well, and that's why they call it the flower of life.
But you got that, Jane, from your own revelation, did you?
Oh no. I was looking for Metatron's cube on Google, and I found how to draw it. There was a thing that said how to draw it, and it, you know, it seemed quite straightforward at first, but it's really tricky because it has to be completely precise. And I thought that was fascinating, and I did it when I was on holiday, on retreat. And there was something, you know, like the old icons, and people would draw an icon like a prayer, and it was very the experience of doing it was very deep. It was quite. I was just so drawn to drawing it, but I used coins. Because they were more solid, and so I could control them more. But it was quite an experience to draw it, and I think that was I don't know really, but I no I found it on Google. I didn't have a revelation of it.
Yeah, because what you're drawing to me looks more realistic than the one I see of the 13 circles. Because I've never seen that one you've just shown me. But that seems to resonate with my spirit more.
I think what fascinated me about the whole thing, because I'm by history, I'm more of a scientist really, and a mathematician, and an accountant, and blah blah blah, so I love numbers, and what fascinated me about it was the geometry of it. That within it, if you look at it, you can draw different geometric shapes within the structure, and that I just found completely fascinating, that within this structure there was like the mathematics of the universe, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. And I just went ahead and I posted that on Big Picture. It was TED Talks, the theory of everything. And if everything was perfect, what it would look like. And in the end, he shows Metatron's cube. So I posted that link. It's a very short video.
And I started to listen to something last night, which sort of fitted in with what we did yesterday. I didn't finish it because I was too tired. But but it was about the perception of matter, and of course atoms. And I sort of knew this, but it was quite interesting to sort of watch a program on it. But actually, atoms are all space. There's a tiny little core, and this has fascinated me for years, really. There's a tiny little nucleus, but it's all space with these electrons whirling around it. So this idea of vibration, I think, is so fascinating, because the only reason we see solid matter is because of our ability to perceive it. And so it was quite interesting to watch. And this was from a scientific perspective, and you know, the great mystery of how can all this space and air, how can it be solid? And it is only because that's how we perceive it in the matter world.
Yeah, I agree with
And when
that.
you
And
look at
what's
the
so fascinating?
circles,
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
sorry. No. Sorry, I just thought of it. Sorry, Anushka. But when you look at the Metatron cube with all the circles, of course they're like circling around, and there's nothing solid apart from where they join. And I've just sort of thought of that.
Yeah. And it's fascinating. I was just going to say that because Jane was talking of matter, matter is just 5%. It's just incredible of the total universe. And so then we have really the whole universe and everything that we call space actually made up of much more, which I feel are dimensions not really confined to matter. Because I think that this matter, I think that we discussed in another encounter, was that it was probably the fallen state that changed it and brought it to this state.
Yeah, and I think as well, if you've never created a new realm in New Earth, I'd really encourage you to go and explore that, because I think then if you've not experienced Metatron's Cube, you'll get the hunger for Metatron's Cube after doing that. Because you'll feel like you're beginning to engage a dimension that doesn't exist, but you can go into it and create it, and that's another kind of picture. To do that, one of the things I started off doing was I went down like a shaft. It wasn't the Heavenly Realm shaft. It was like into, well, I'm this flower in New Earth, and I sort of pushed in, and then before I found myself like falling down the dimensions in New Earth, and then it was quite a pleasant experience, and then I wanted to get off and explore one of the dimensions. So I just kind of like set my mind on getting out of this shaft and into a dimension, and then all I saw was this road ahead of me. And so then I began to just explore. Well, it wasn't really this. Well, it was. I don't know if I was creating then. No, I think I was exploring one of the existing ones, and I just began to touch things and get a feel for how you could operate. Could you walk? Could you bounce? Could you? Just asking lots of exploratory questions. And then I think what I did after that was, oh, that's right. Then I began to say, right, how can different dimensions in New Earth operate? So I began to set my heart on something I wanted to see happen, something out of this world, you know, like a mixture of Earth, but if we could operate in any way we could, like a children's cartoon, you know, we could suddenly zoom up into the air, spin round, release gold dust, all that sort of thing, and began to kind of set my heart on different ways to operate. And it was then I think I began to feel I was creating a new realm in New Earth that was opening the possibilities for someone to go and explore that. And that was part of our role, was to begin to create these new realms, to almost expand the boundaries of New Earth that had got so shrunken down because our consciousness wasn't aware that we were there. And that's what I see the role is. And if that may help some, if you're struggling to explore Metatron's cube, begin that way. See if that opens up your understanding of dimensions and how you might operate in multiple dimensions. And then I think you'll get a feel for Metatron's cube and why it's important. I see it's almost the future of where we're going, because we'll become so accelerated with multiple scrolls that we will have to operate in this way. We will no longer be able to just engage one throne and that'll be enough. We will be so huge that we will be doing these multiple act things. And I think it may come, I get this real sense, just as I'm talking about right now, that it will become more of an important place to be as the suns mature.
I agree with that, because one of the encounters I had after that incident with Metatron, and after seeing myself in dimensions, and then I got this feeling that I feel all in all, like Father. That's how we're supposed to be, filling all in all at the same time. And what I seen was, after that, when I started creating, it changed the way I consciously or unconsciously, if I just see myself. And what I had seen was, even though I'm not consciously thinking, okay, I'm going to go now and I'm going to start creating, and so what I see is that when I just see myself and I just catch what my spirit is doing, and I just tune into that, and what I seen was that I was creating, but not with my conscious mind. And as I was creating these different worlds, and I was creating them all together at the same time, which means it's like creating a whole planet, like an Earth, but I'm creating multiple all at the same time. Not Earth, of course, because I don't know how to explain this. And not physical, not like this, but I seen myself creating. And as I seen myself creating, it was like I could see everything happening all together in all the places. In all those places, it was like my eye, I could see everywhere. So it was so strange, because I've never had that experience where I can see, because I think physically we can't do that. We could probably do that if you're looking at a screen and then you have these cameras in different rooms and then you can see the cameras in all the different screens. But it was like I could see everything all at once simultaneously, and I don't even know how to explain that. It was like I could see everything all at once in all those realms that I was creating simultaneously. It was, I don't know how to explain, it's so bizarre.
Wow. Oh, that's impressive. I love the way you can see there, Anushka. I think it's a really special gift. I see you having quite a role in opening this up for us. Oh. The other thing that's happened to me recently is my name has been expanding, and Bill's been getting huge rev on names as well. And I think what will happen is we'll no longer walk in our singularity of our name, like we don't walk in the singularity of gifts anymore. And we will take on these multiple names of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, which really represents being in the whole of Metatron's cube and coping with all the scrolls. And can you imagine how is Father and Jesus mighty God, everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, Counselor. How is he all those things other than he's in Metatron's cube over all dimensions, ruling in those functions? That's kind of how I see it at the moment.
And I think Father's bringing us there, bringing us to that place, based even on my experiences with, we're really starting to function just like he does, and have this consciousness, if I would say, not the consciousness that I speak of here, that we have here, because this consciousness we can only focus maybe at one thing at a time, or maybe two things at a time. So not talking about this, but our spirit to have that ability to have consciousness of everything that's happening and being able to see because I'm there, and consciously operating in all different realms, but having that understanding and being able to see completely. I don't even know. I don't even know, so I can't even teach people how to do it. But I see Father doing it as well when you see him in eternity. That's so much of what he does. And it's just so vast, but he's getting us there. That's what's so awesome, that he can take us from where we are and get us to where he is. It just blows my mind. It's just marvelous, my goodness. It's so huge, we can't even wrap it around with our natural mind. Like, how would that work? How can I see so many things all at once? How can that work? We would think, okay, at first I need to think of this, then I need to think of that, then I need to see this, and then that's how our mind would naturally go. But picture, just like how you would see a security camera, like a screen. It wasn't quite like that, of course. It was very different. And you have these multiple screens, but it was like you're in multiple places and you're seeing multiple stuff. And the information is so vast. It's so vast. But you're doing so many different things simultaneously. It's like I can't even describe it. So even where testimonies go, I just get dumbfounded. I'd just rather not put anything on. Yeah. It's so difficult to describe.
It's definitely where I'm moving into. I'm doing a lot more multiple things. I seem to be obsessed at the moment about sitting on multiple thrones. It's like every time I sit on one throne, I can't just stay there anymore. I have to see what's above it, what's below it, and almost I have to go up to the one that's at the top.
Yeah. But big picture has always been more about dialogue. But we could encounter as well, because Jane K has put there, should we encounter now?
Yeah, particularly if there isn't people who haven't been in before, it's probably very important that you give it a go. Yeah,
So
I wanted to
should they do
just
this personally?
ask. Yeah, can I
Should they
just
do
ask? There's a Jennifer. Which Jennifer are you, Jennifer? I'd like to add you to the group. I just noticed you're on the group. Jennifer, can you hear us?
She's put yes, definitely, Jane, on the chat.
Oh yeah, what's your surname?
Can you type it for us, Jennifer? If you're not able to
Baxter.
speak. Okay.
My surname's Baxter.
Oh, Baxter, great. I'll add you to the chat then. Have you encountered Metatron's cube?
Yes, I have.
Oh, good. Good. So who would it be new for? Anyone here hasn't? Everyone. Oh, so that's really good. Yeah, well, do lead us in, Anushka.
Oh, okay. Now for Metatron's cube.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's see ourselves all in one accord. Let's see ourselves holding hands. And by faith, we all step into Metatron's cube. Taking in the frequencies, the light, the vibrations that we feel below our feet, the sounds that we hear, the dimensions within dimensions that we see. You may even see the shaft, this column in the middle with these, which is like, I had posted this video. I wasn't able to post, so Jane posted that with this building. You have this elevator shaft, and then you have all these floors rotating uh, around that shaft. Like you could say, are like the cities. So you have that there, and you can just sit down there in Metatron's cube, and you can keep coming here as often as you like, and get a coronation here. And see yourself ruling all the cities simultaneously, where you don't have to go to each city. Because really all the cities then just become one city and it's one throne, but just different aspects of that throne, the way I see it. Welcome, Helen. We are engaging Metatron's cube. And feel free to share what you see, or what you hear, or what you feel in this place. I think this is why I'm sharing a page, and I think this is why they say that there are 13 concentric circles based on this diagram.
So I'm getting all these crisscross
All
lines
this.
again. Of
Mm,
um of
Go ahead, Jen.
yeah, all these sort of lines, these crisscross lines, and they're going through me. They're multicolored, and I realised then as I tried to move, I was moving to a different part of it, but new crisscross lines going through me, and I knew instantly what it meant was that I was taking on the almost like the DNA of that dimension, such that I would know how to function in that dimension. And then I moved out further, go to the outskirts of it, and I went to the further and further. I actually went east, and as I did, I felt like I was pioneering new dimensions to allow people to access, but also to understand how you operate in different ways. And one thing we've seen in New Earth is that we're not just a normal body. We can morph into things, we can change form, shape, colour. Very, very different. And it's almost like those lines going through me were enabling me to understand even greater ways of operating like that. It's almost like you've got to imagine being in a cartoon. And you know, if you can do anything in a cartoon, what would you do? What would you want to do?
I think like those, like you have these cartoons and they're walking on these imaginary steps that don't exist. And then after that, they realize there are no steps there and they fall. But of course,
Yeah.
not with the falling part, but being able to even imagine things which are not really there.
Yeah, yeah.
Helen's got her hand up. Yep.
2 years ago, I was in the country and in a very, very spiritually dark place. And I didn't know about this, but it literally came over me. And while I was there, I totally functioned out of it so that nothing affected my husband or I. And we were able to achieve physically what would physically be impossible, to empty a house of 2 hoarders from floor to ceiling in 5 days, 7 rooms. So it enabled us to do something in a timelessness and physically something that 60-year-old plus shouldn't be able to do. So my encounter was to be able to see past the curses on the place, to see past the things that had destroyed Christianity in the town, and it just gave me a pair of binoculars in heaven to perceive above and below and around and to function for that week. And now when I go in, I am I was aware of my form 2 years ago. Now I am not aware of a form, but I am aware of identifying that areas where I have been in the last 6 months, are related to it, and they all link up. So it's a bit hard to explain, because I jokingly said to somebody today, I wish all of this came with a dictionary, because mere English words don't really adequately describe what you actually experience or see in these dimensions. However, I agree with what Jane said about moving in different parts of it, and it takes you to different aspects of what God is doing through Jane, and what God is doing through me, and what He's doing through each of us. And as a group, it is I'm experiencing a learning curve in interacting with a more personal aspect of Jesus aligning the group. That's what I'm experiencing. Jesus aligning the group through it, and the different aspects of where different people are within it. I hope that all makes sense.
Wow, thank you. That's awesome that you see that. I see Olga shared her testimony on the chat, and she says, I immediately went down a shaft. I felt very much like home. I feel I have been here many times. This shaft, I feel, would take me to any destination I desire to go to, any aspect of both time and timelessness. And then she said, since I am one with the cube, and since I can hold many things at once. Thank you. Anyone else want to share your testimonies of what you see or what you felt? Or what you perceived?
I've got a big sense of newness. I seem to have landed in a very shimmering and not quite solid, and that may be where my head is at the moment, but a not quite solid thing, and it's landed, and all I can see is just completely bare, just desert. Maybe that's, I don't want to explain it. I want to just encounter it. But it looks like just there's nothing there of a big vast desert, and this shimmering thing has just brought me here. So I don't know whether anybody else is feeling something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that shimmering thing was Metatron, the angel. And the desert was the fact that there was a lot of realms you hadn't explored, but he was sort of bringing you to explore them.
Well, that sounds interesting. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'll engage with that.
Or even realms to bring into alignment. I see that there are so many realms, and maybe he's showing you the realms so you could work with him and bring them into alignment. Anyone else?
Very interesting concept, that, Anushka. I could see that being a mandate for one of our groups in future.
Anyone else want to share what you've seen or felt? We can still engage as well. We could give ourselves some more time to see what we see or what's happening around us.
Oh, I'm getting a new feeling now, and it's like I am. Have you seen those balls that have electrical currents going through them? You can buy them at children's toy shops. Static balls, I think they're called. And you touch them, and you like get a little electric shock. These blue electric shock things go through it. Well, it feels like I'm like that, and it feels like I'm sending out these electric shocks, and when they're touching a new dimension, they're bringing it to life. Oh, it's very different.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this could also be something that we just spoke of. So we could do multiple realms this way.
Yeah. I think part of my scroll is to bring these dimensions to life that other people wouldn't discover, and that's what I'm doing there.
And I think Jane K also seen the same thing with the desert, and really not letting it remain a desert, but causing it to be transformed. Where there's no barrenness, it's not dead anymore. And Titch says, yes, exactly, Jane. I see Metatron like you just said. Which part? The one with the electricity, or the one before that? Titch. Oh, the electricity. Okay. Jennifer has put on the chat, as Jane explained what she experienced, I sense that latitudinal and longitudinal lines caused us to become best described as bionic beings.
Ooh.
What do you mean by bionic?
Maybe half machine, half human.
Oh, okay.
Capacity, maybe.
I went to go up to Metatron, and what happened when I tried to step in, I had to change form in order to step in, and I became what looked like a transparent being with little dash marks going through my entire body, like the little dash marks, and they were white, like little short white lines. And so once I stepped in, something came and swooped me up, like some form of an angel came and swooped me up. And together we did head toward that desert land. But as we was flying over the desert land, it started transforming to a fruitful place, until we got like right across the desert. At the end of the desert was a large round circle of light.
Mm. Wow. Jennifer's put there, I think she's put the meaning of what she meant by bionic as multidimensional. Yes, I agree.
Yes, and when she had mentioned bionic, I didn't know how to describe what I had to transform into. So when she said that, I thought that that would be a good name for it, bionic. So that's what caused me to actually speak what I had seen.
Mm. Jane Kastner has put on the chat, is the light binary code there or not there?
Sorry, that's a bit obscure. What I mean, who is it who just saw the being with the little bits of light in the being? And
Yeah,
yeah, sorry.
that was me. As soon as I heard the question, it appeared, and I really didn't know what these things look like. But to me, it looked like it looked like a ray of light. The binary cord looked like a cord made out of a white light with sparks on the end. That's what I saw.
It was interesting because I thought that the idea that the light is on and off, and it's like this the absolute basic formula is on or off, and it's almost like you're, I don't know, I think I need to engage that a bit more, but it seems to be something that makes it multidimensional, but takes it back to its absolutely simplest, like a code.
If anyone feels like sharing, you're free to share anything you're seeing or experiencing or sensing.
Anushka, I joined late, but I have encountered Metatron before. But right now, I see a diamond with its, different angles and the whole
Facets.
thing. Yeah, different facets. Each is different. Uh, Different kinds of rectangles, polygons, and things like that. And it's a well carved diamond, big one. And all of a sudden, there was a whirlwind around it. And sort of energy oozed out of it. And I'm still feeling that power from the diamond. And it's so great.
Yeah, I seen something too. I began to smile when you were talking of whirlwind because I would what I had seen earlier, I think when Jane or someone else was talking, Jane Custon or someone, what I was seeing was this huge, like this vortex or something that just kept moving with such intensity inside, but not vertically. It was like a window that opened up for me in front of me, and I could see it just spinning
Exactly.
at this
Yeah.
high
And
speed, and it was so intense. My goodness.
yes, that's
Yeah,
exactly. But
interesting you
what
saw
I
it.
saw was like a door, I presumed it was one of my mountains because it was like a palace door that opened, beautifully engraved and carved, and things were coming out of it, colorful people. It was so beautiful. Yeah, that's exactly what I saw.
Do you think
Metatron's cube as well could be like a form of power source. You know, like the ultimate light, and how we need light. We're light beings. We have to live in the light, and it's the ultimate light. Everything being illuminated. So I was just thinking back to what someone was saying about the crystal of light as well. I've been being given these presents every day, and one of the presents was just a crystal of light. And it was so glorious, and I felt like I had to just stick my head right next to this crystal to absorb all the light. It was as if I was desperately craving light now to survive. Couldn't live in the darkness. And then I jumped into this crystal to get the full light in my whole body. And the crystal actually went a bit dim because I was absorbing so much light because there hadn't been enough light in me. It was kind of drawing on the power. I could feel it. It just made me think of that.
Yeah, sister, can I try to answer the sister? Yes, I think it is a power source, because in one of my earlier encounters, I stepped into the Metatron, and it was like a MRI. MRI, when you go for a MRI, as in you're sort of, you lie down and you're sort of be pulled into into a machine, and I saw Jesus seeing all the parts of my body and healing it. It's so difficult to, like, he was looking at me on a screen like doctors do, and one of my legs was hurting, it got healed. So it's definitely a power source. I know that for sure.
And we had that sense of recharging, didn't we, with the pods that linked in and got nourished. And maybe the nourishment is the light, as we go out to places of darkness or desert, or and we have to plug back in order to keep to keep pure, to keep energized, to keep able to do the job. Maybe that's part of it.
Well, I guess so. When it comes to Metatron being a powerhouse, but I just like to say personally, I have never gone to absorb anything from Metatron's cube, and it may sound bizarre, and use it like a power source to charge me up, because of the revelation that I got after that, when Father began to talk to me. So yeah, the change definitely came after that, not before. But I see that we are, when you put Metatron's cube inside of you, you see yourself so vast that small thing cannot charge you up anymore. It's like this surge. It's like, but when I put Metatron's cube inside of me, oh my goodness, I began to shake in the natural. I don't know what was happening to my body. It was like, it was so intense that my body couldn't take it. I was jerking. I was jerking. It was so bizarre. It was like, for that moment, it was like it was a bit too much for me to contain. And the jerking just continued, and these involuntary jerk movements. I was like, oh my gosh. But then I knew from my conversation that I could actually contain it. And then I did. After some time it subsided. But whoa, it was so much that even I couldn't focus, I couldn't think. it was so much at that time. It was so at that time I would agree it is like this power surge. Then after
Yeah.
that, uh, you get so much bigger. It's I mean, when you are that much bigger after that, you hardly feel it then. I don't know. I just didn't feel it then. As it kind of uh, absorbed into me. Now I was okay after that. Yeah.
I just tried that, and I can feel what you're saying.
Yeah, and at that time when
Yeah.
I did it,
Mm.
talking to Father when I did it, for a moment I thought, Sh- should I have really gone ahead and done that? Even though we were having a conversation, I thought, okay, maybe this was a bad idea, because I seen that my body wasn't. It was so much that it was just like this, boom, like and my body couldn't sustain it. And I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to go about my day? People, people are going to see me acting so bizarre. They probably never talk to me again. And I thought, what is going on? I hope this stops. I hope this stops. And then I thought, oh, why did I do this? And then I had all these thoughts of regret. And then after that, it began to ebb, and I was fine. But yeah, and Father's never wrong. I just thought, oh my goodness, why did I do this? Maybe I wasn't ready. You have all these thoughts,
Mm.
but he knows when you are. When he tells you something, he's always bang on. So yeah, because
Well, it
when he
makes
was
sense if
communicating. Oh, sorry.
it makes sense if the temple is if we're the temple, we house Metatron's cube. Do you think?
Oh, could you repeat that, Jane?
Well, it makes sense to me that if we are the temple, we should house Metatron's cube. Do you think?
Yeah,
And
and not
that's
it
what you were
housing us.
doing. Because I see
Yeah.
we can go to Metatron's cube and experience it in the multiverse, but I see an element we are meant to house it as well, which is different.
And I think as you grow in the spirit and as you get bigger, you will come across doing this on your journey. You will have Father, the Godhead, or wisdom, or someone leading you to that point. But then you don't need to feed off of it anymore.
Yeah, I think, well, then it sort of just becomes the source, and it's not like you're conscious of it.
And also, we don't need a source to keep feeding us because we are the source.
Yeah,
We are
exactly.
light. It's not that we need to feed from a source to be that.
No, I didn't ever see myself in Metatron's cube drawing power from it, which was why I wasn't sure when I asked the question, because this other crystal thing, that I felt that I was doing that, but I don't know what it was. This crystal, it's like a white crystal. Maybe it was just God as I am light.
Or maybe we can engage it more to see what that is.
But what I'm finding now is if I watch anything on TV or something that's a bit seedy, it really impacts me. It's as if there's a lot of purity, and anything like that is highlighted. And so I feel like almost I can't watch anything seedy now. I've got to really watch the environment I'm in. It seems to have more of an impact if I'm more sensitive to it now.
I kept on seeing these lightnings, like threads of lightnings falling everywhere. And then it took different shapes, like waves. And then now I am seeing an eye. the shapes I can't describe. It could be like a DNA changing shapes, or when you look at somebody heartbeat on the screen, something like that. Very vague. I can't describe it. But now I am seeing crystal clear eyes. These eyes are. It has so much depth. The the iris.
Mm. You have any idea who that is, or if it's a being, or if that's father?
No, I need to engage it more. But those eyes are so deep. It's a being.
Mm. Yeah, I've seen that being in at my place inside a wall, like through a wall, and I was shocked that there was a being looking at me, and it was not like shock, but it just caught me by surprise, and it was just an eye.
Yeah,
That was
that's
very
exactly
bizarre for
what.
me when I had experienced that. I think
Wow.
1 or 2 years ago. Yeah,
And what
it
is
was
it?
very
But
yeah.
it looks like an extraterrestrial now. I mean, it's so bizarre. What you're
It's a
describing
bit
exactly
freaky.
that I'm saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it is from the Metatron, correct? It's a positive thing.
It. I didn't see it in Metatron's cube. I just saw it in the natural. Like I looked, and inside the wall there was this eye, and this eye was looking at me. So it was so strange. I was like, oh, I just got to start looking at it. Yeah. I was wondering what on earth are these beings? Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. But from this, there's another, like, a diamond, crystal that's coming out, and it's radiating energy now. And now I see the difference between the Father's eye and this side, between Jesus's eyes. Jesus' eyes so full of love, and it's so human. But these are like, I mean, a being. I don't know how to say it. But from the iris comes out this crystal and a power source.
Yeah, and the eyes are not like the small eyes, that we would have. The eyes like it's a big eye
Yes, round and big.
that you
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's not the usual size of our eyes. Yeah.
correct. And the crystal is now, I see it has got blue color.
Any idea what the crystal is?
I
Because I
see
think
two
Jane
hands.
was talking about the crystal also.
Yeah, but that was transparent diamond, but this is light blue. It's reflecting shades of blue, and I see two hands holding it. Wow, this is so beautiful.
Jennifer put on the chat sapphire.
Yeah. I heard like was it Elijah or Elisha was taken up in a whirlwind? That kind of mantle, the people in this group are going to experience. And it is mentioned in a psalm that uh, the Lord comes like a whirlwind and he drives away all your enemies away. So these two things are coming very prominently in my mind right
Hmm. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Would anyone else like to share something?
Maybe we're complete now.
Yeah. We can always step into these encounters and go back and revisit the stuff that we haven't experienced yet, or even ask Father and seek Father for it.
I wonder
Because
if
I
that
think
eye is a being that's meant to help us see better.
I must say it really freaked me out when I seen it, when I had seen it the first time
And it
in my room. Yeah.
it might be a to match the pineal eye we're supposed to have that helps us see. I'm going to engage that a bit more because my heart is always to see better.
Yeah.
And then there's always the eyes on the seraphim wings. Many people have had encounters where they've just seen, they've got they've developed like a wings of eyes.
Yeah, I had that experience. I think when we were in the city of Justice, I think, wasn't it, Jane? I think I said that. I started seeing eyes all over myself, on my whole being.
Yeah.
They just started
as you were,
appearing.
I'm so sorry. As you were, she was talking about the eyes of the seraphim. I saw eyes like eagles. Those eyes are different. They're like elongated, but these are round and big. The being had eyes like really big.
Yeah,
Big
that's a
and
being. Yeah.
round.
Yeah, which is different when we get that cherubic body, when we start operating from the four faces of God, the lion, ox, eagle, man. And it says there are eyes all over them, on their wings and all, and they're just covered with eyes. Yeah. And there have been people who have, there was a testimony where I heard someone say that this being with eyes all over them embraced her, this person. And that person was like, ooh, yuck, because the person was just feeling so strange to be held by this being and was really freaking out. And after that, after the being left her, she began to see better in the spirit. She began to see so much more clearly. So I think I agree with Jane when it says we need to start engaging these beings, because I didn't engage that being at all when I seen that being. I was just way too freaked out by its appearance to engage it, because we're not used to seeing things like that. I mean, even though we see stuff in heaven, but certain things, like, we need to get comfortable and come to that level where we're comfortable to be able to engage them. But yeah, but now I see that it's important for me to go back and engage that being. And there's even an I in the center of my name, my spiritual name. So yeah, I think I should.
You know, the dollar bill has got an eye on it.
Mm,
I've been wanting to ask, where did that come from? Because some people are saying, oh, well, this is the Illuminati eye. But I wonder if the original, that thing of the eye, was taken over by the Illuminati, but actually existed way before. You even see eyes on Egyptian hieroglyphics.
the eye
I
of
mean, it
Horus.
could be. Yeah, I mean, it could even be that it always was a being that some people have engaged, and it gave them an ability to see, and then that's where the Illuminati took it over, because their aim was to like expose truth.
To see and then to start using it, but in the counterfeit way.
Yeah, I almost see we need to redeem that eye, because now there's so many people talking about this eye and people giving these symbols of the Illuminati, and I always sense the Illuminati as well always started off as a good organization, that they were there to expose truth for the good, and it seems to have been hijacked to now be this thing that's a controlling organization. I think it's another thing we've got to redeem, the I and the Illuminati.
But then don't they have their own agendas now, the Illuminati, with concerns bringing a government which is not of God?
Yeah,
And
that's
they
what I'm
all seem to
saying.
be focused on that.
Yeah, and I don't like the way that it's dominating society. It seems to be dominating the celebrities and everything, and they all seem to be signing up for the Illuminati and then doing all these secret signs. And I just think we've something else to redeem.
Yeah.
As you were talking about the meaning of these eyes, I saw an owl. I saw two kind of eyes. They
Oh, I can't hear you. Was it just me?
eyes of an owl, and that the owl's at night, and the eagle has a very sharp eye. And we are going to these people who are encountering these eyes are going to see in darkness, and will be able to judge and somehow deal with this darkness and eliminate it in some way, because they're going to have sharp eyes to understand the depth of this darkness, and they'll be able to see in the dark as well. I don't know what it means.
Amen. I received that.
Yeah.
And I think Jane has put here, Jane Kastner, yes, redeem the eye. So do we feel we want to do that now in this session, Jane?
Well, funny enough, I just did it then. I just threw it into the fire of the Ancient of Days. Any false agendas of the Illuminati, and the false image of the eye, particularly on the dollar bill. I mean, can you imagine that controlling like the meaning for currency? It's almost like it would sustain the Babylonian Empire. Yeah, so if you're familiar with Ancient of Days, you just see like this, you group with Father and Jesus, and we can group with each other, and we form a ring of fire, because fire is so much part of the Ancient of Days throne, and all we have to do is throw any rubbish forces, governments in there. When I did that, I saw the dollar bill crack in two. I got the sense that it was an inroad into the Babylonian Empire forces.
I think we have to be so careful when we call things demonic and satanic, or even be fearful of certain symbols and signs, because what the enemy has done is, like Jane said, just distorted it and used it because the church rejected it. Even when it comes to the star signs, the zodiac signs, where we go, oh my gosh, that is demonic. But what I had seen in Satan's trophy room was the zodiac signs, a blueprint that was stolen by him because the church refused it and said, oh, that is occult. And so they never did understand the role of the stars and how it all works, because the church rejected it and the enemy had the right then to take it.
Yeah, and as you were talking, I heard that verse Luke 11:34. The eye is the lamp of your body. When your eye is clear, your whole body is also full of light. But when it is bad, your body is also full of darkness. I just checked it on Google. It's Luke 11:34.
Yeah, so seeing really these counterfeit, and then as soon as we realize that it's counterfeit, or we notice it's counterfeit, or we see something, like I know there are people scared to engage Metatron's cube, who are in the old wineskin, even though they know it, even though they're listening to Ian Clayton and Justin Abraham, because they have also heard the counterfeit and New Agers talking of Metatron, the angel, and talking of Metatron's cube. And there's a lot of counterfeit out there. And so we have people then who go online and then they are so fearful of being deceived that they just don't want to step into it, which is also another reason why a lot of people, even though they have seen and heard Justin Abraham and Ian Clayton, they're not fully stepping in. There's a reluctance because they're so scared of being deceived. And actually, all this is really just the counterfeit of the original.
Yeah, yeah. And you just can't say that everything of New Age is wrong. You know, chances are they've picked up on some things. They've picked up on the importance of frequency. And so I think we have to be willing to honor all and say they've probably picked up on bits that we haven't, and we've picked up on bits they haven't, but we can meet in the middle.
Yeah. As opposed to attacking them and finding a ground where you can agree with them on certain things, so that you can actually bring them. Because if you're always fighting and accusing them and don't want anything to do with them, or even if you're so scared of being deceived yourself, but of course only if you feel the leading to help them or to approach them. But I've seen Christians just attacking them on Facebook. Those are Christians who are still in the old wineskin, which was so funny to me, because the person, the new ager who I was listening to, she was talking of having a diamond body, like the gold bodies and the diamond multifaceted body. And this person in the old wineskin, a Christian, he had no comprehension what she was talking about. And she knew it. And so she just ignored him. And he began to quote verses in scripture that, all the idol worshippers and things like this will be thrown in the lake of fire and stuff like that. And he just kept attacking her with scriptures of judgment and of hell, and just kept condemning her.
Wow.
And she knew that and knew a lot of the new agers, when they have people going and preaching to them, they know that these people have no understanding of what they're talking about. So it was really sad to see.
Yeah, because it's just It's the wineskin of honor, and it's the wineskin of everyone coming on the same page. So that's how we'll do it, by honoring that we've been deceived, you know. And inaction doesn't stop you being deceived. Action stops you being deceived. Oh, that's good, isn't it? Gosh.
Oh, could you repeat that, Jane?
Yeah, inaction doesn't stop you being deceived. Action stops you being deceived. You see what I mean? You take action with governmental action. The inaction makes you weak, makes you vulnerable, makes you like a scared rabbit or a scared deer in the headlights. Oh, I'm feeling the truth on that. That's where the body is. They're in inaction, fearing the heresy, and the journey is always an element of heresy, because you cannot journey with God and say you have it all right from day one. So you're always going to be in heresy. So once you release the fear, it has no power over you. And the only time it has power over you is when you're so frightened of it that you don't step into anything and you become a spectator. And that's the secret of being a pioneer. You refuse to buy into these myths, that a lot of them are superstitions and they're myths, and you say, okay, well, I'm going to challenge it. I'm going to risk it and challenge it and see what happens. And then you realize that you're actually free and nothing bad's happened. And how you do it.
I agree, because even one of I had to ask myself when I was on the beginning of my journey, even when it came to ascending, when I was ascending with my spirit, I even had these moments where I would ascend with my soul as well, and it really freaked me out, and I began to talk to my soul and tell my soul, you'll never do that again, because I used to get so scared. I would see myself floating up on the ceiling and stuff like that. And I always accounted it as demonic, because I know that only the occult operate with, with their soul. But of course, we don't have that line. But I was so freaked out by it. And then to allow yourself to be that triune being, where you can let your soul go and it's not demonic. But the occult were using it. That's all. So a whole lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Fabulous. Are we complete?
Yeah, I think so.
Anushka, did you feel? I just felt a lot of jerking in my body, like the whole body is moving. Did you feel like that as well? I mean, I can't control it. It is like from the lower body jerked once, and then the whole thing is jerking now. I mean, I can't. Now I'm okay, but it happened for about two minutes, I think.
Wow. Yeah, I think we should just go back and engage it, and and even engage Metatron's cube and keep engaging it till you're able to contain the fullness of it, because that's Father's goal for you.
Yeah,
And
that's
for
what it
everyone
is.
in this group.
Yeah. The
And I
moment you
keep on
say,
saying,
that's what it is.
eagle. I keep on seeing the eagle again and again. Yeah, it's amazing. Wow. So what I gather now is that because of what symptoms, what I've seen today is that it's a power source, and we have to take it in our bodies, and we have to learn to contain it. Correct?
Yes, I think it automatically flows into the body. You can't help it, because it's just so much. It's just this huge power source. But then we don't really live off of it. You know what I mean? Because Father has created us so much bigger than Metatron's cube, and so much more, that we are a powerhouse in itself. And that's how we are the house of God. And we are that source. We become that source. And we become the beginning and the end, and the summation of our whole journey, and so much
Wow.
more.
There's so much to learn, Anushka. This is so beautiful.
I'm sorry, Jane was saying something.
No. But I do have a question. How can we be more than Metatron's cube if Metatron's cube is everything?
I see that when we put ourselves in Metatron's cube, what I felt was, even on New Earth, we we needed something because I felt that we become one with Metatron's cube, and we have all these dimensions within us. And I think that I don't know if it was Grace or someone who also said it when she encountered New Earth. She had some experience like that with Metatron as well, and we really begin to um, host all of it in us, the galaxies, the dimensions, and everything. And I initially, because I see that we are not mature enough, or at the place where we are at, because see, we are portals, and angels can go through us, just like Jesus said, I'm the door. He didn't need to go to Metatron's cube to access all the dimensions and to be able to, how would I say, govern and rule over all of these dimensions. Father never needed Metatron's cube. I see it as a construct to help us, just like a whole lot of infrastructure and constructs that Father has created for us to step into the fullness of those things. Just like the cities, where we have the cities and then we become one with that aspect. So he created the infrastructure and a construct so that he's able to get us from A to Z. And so he created all these things in the way. And I don't see Father using Metatron's cube to access or to govern any of the dimensions. And as we get bigger and bigger and bigger, and as we come to that maturity, we won't need Metatron's cube to access dimensions in time, out of time. We'll be able to do it pretty much without it, just like he does. He's not dependent on Metatron's cube. Metatron's cube is something that he created, which is something that I see.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I don't actually have any revelation on that, or whether I can agree with it, but it's certainly worth asking.
I don't know. I guess at some point, I know it's a journey, and there's a lot of different phases that you have to go through. But you know, it is written, or it's so that all things are in the Father. You know, all things are in Him. So and come from out of Him. And so Metatron's cube has to be one of those things as well that is in Him. And I think our ultimate purpose is to be as He is. So at some point, you know, all these things will be in us and to be able to flow out of us once we pass through the stages of engaging and understanding them.
Yeah. I think once we start hosting Metatron's cube in us, and once we get to that point, or Father shows us, or talks to us, or we get some inkling, and we keep moving forward, I think then once we start hosting it in ourselves, then we are able to go further and take the next step and take the next step. And so I think we'll know as time goes by what will become a Metatron's cube, because I know that Jesus and Father don't need Metatron's cube. They don't need to access anything through the cube. But I know that we do. Just like the gifts with the old wineskin, the Holy Spirit equipped us and gave us gifts to help us and to help the church come to a particular level of maturity. But we were never really called to operate in gifts. So Father always created something to help us, propel us further on. And you have these stages even in history, like the charismatic movement and and it just goes on. And then you have all these movements that have happened, including revivals, but just to help us get to the next stage. So are we complete?
Yes, I feel so.
I think so.
Yes, then let's go ahead and stop the recording.